Thank you so much. My name is George Phillips. I'm an American history teacher who teaches the Constitution. I want to talk first briefly about our common interest in the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and thank you for all you do for our country to stand up for liberty. I also want to talk about my general platform for Congress and certainly answer any questions that you might have. The Constitution is our framework for government, but we know that it started with the Declaration of Independence and those words that we all know, but think about them as a backdrop for what we got into, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty is at the heart of our cause here. The Second Amendment, I believe, was listed second for a very important reason. Besides talking about the right to bear arms, it talks about the security of a free state. Think about around the world where the right to bear arms has been taken away from people by governments. And notice, and I'm telling you what you know, but the government doesn't give us the freedom of religion, of speech, of assembly, of press, of the right to bear arms. Those are our God-given natural rights. But we know terrible things have happened in the last century with dictators and monsters and communist and totalitarian regimes. We know that it continues to happen now. And the common place in all of these is, it is the regimes that have all the guns. The citizens are not allowed to arm themselves and defend themselves. They've been subjected to such travesties. We know our Constitution is under attack. We know it's under attack here with the SAFE Act in New York State. We know there's illegal orders, executive orders on guns on the national level, as well as on immigration, as well as on health care. When you take away one right, whether it be the Second Amendment right, what other rights can't the government take away? Won't it take away? It starts with just something, so it's more than about the right to bear arms for me as a history teacher and someone who loves the Constitution, and I realize it is for you as well. So I wanted you to thank you for representing this movement. We know that our opponents are wrong on the issues. Every tragedy that's happened, almost every tragedy that's happened has had a gun-free zone. And we know that no so-called gun control legislation would prevent any of them. A person who's going to commit a brutal murder, a person who's going to commit a massacre, is certainly a person that's going to be willing to get a gun illegally if they're going to commit that ultimate crime of murder. And so everything that the government's tried to put in on the state level, on the national level, is just making it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to express their constitutional rights. And this is the message I know that you've got now. This is the message that is really at the heart of who I am when I talk about this issue in the Constitution. And it's a message we have to take forward. As a history teacher, I know a great deal. Besides the recent tragedies that the government tries to use as power grabs, the greatest school killing, the worst school killing rather in history, was in a school in the 1920s when someone blew up the school when they were upset, a madman, a lunatic, when they lost a local election. More children were killed in that than any of these other recent tragedies. And we know the story on Columbine more recently, that there was dynamite as well. So we have to realize the power of evil in the world, whether it's ISIS abroad or evil here. And I do agree with the NRA, and I'm proud on my previous run for Congress to have an A rating with the NRA, and I'm sure I'll have an A rating again when their scorecard comes out, that we do need more good guys with guns. Areas where we have strong education, a lot of law-abiding citizens, exercising their right to bear arms, concealed carry, we see crime go down. The crime happens in these gun-free zones. So that's my perspective on this very important issue that I think brings us together, but that's a starting point for liberty, for the Constitution, and even to take from Gary to go to the monstrosity here, that we're so far away from the Constitution, we're just doing whatever we want, spending whatever we want, as he mentioned, things that were not in the intention of the Founding Fathers. And as most of you probably realize, the Founding Fathers intended national security, immigration, naturalization laws, things they're not doing a great job. The federal government is not doing a great job with now, at least on the border. And so that's our background. A few things about me and my platform. I grew up in this area. My first job out of college was working in the IBM plant in manufacturing during my summers in college in the 90s. Friends were losing their jobs. My brother lost his job, and he left the area. If we went around this room, I bet every single one of us would have friends and family that we wish could be here, but aren't because of the economic situation. I have been living here the last 11 years with my family as a teacher, raising my children, came back after college and working as a congressional aide and seeing the mess in Washington. And seeing some of this stuff, I remember just the eye-opening, and I'll talk about something briefly, the Medicare prescription drug bill. We're spending all this new money here, and we're not paying for it. I remember members of Congress being coerced and arm twisted to vote for that, and it was a sad day to say, hey, we're putting, as a Republican majority, putting hundreds of millions of dollars into a new program without telling the American people how we're going to pay for it. It was a very, very sad day. I ran for Congress against Maurice Hinchey. We came very close in 2010. It was a district that went from Ithaca to Poughkeepsie. We had 43,000 more Democrats. By the end, we were ranked by one of the national publications as the #2 race in the country, and Bill Clinton was here campaigning against me. If you remember, he was here campaigning for his wife the other day. The last time he was in Binghamton, it was campaigning for Hinchey against us, and I wanted to thank all of those here tonight who had voted for us and supported us in that run. And we came up short, but government is not the end-all be-all. We need good people in education. I give my best every day as a teacher. We need good people in business, in healthcare, in every job. So I've poured myself into my work as Dean of Students at my school. I've taught at Seton High School as Dean of Students. I've been at Broome Community College. I've been at the McCormick Secure Center, a maximum security youth detention facility up near Ithaca. And I've also worked for the Jack Kemp Foundation. Some of you may remember Jack Kemp, the old Buffalo Bill football star. He spearheaded the Reagan agenda. He mentored me before he died. And I've worked on economic policy issues for the last several years for the Kemp Foundation. Where do we go from here? Jobs is a huge issue in this area right now. As I mentioned, we all have people we wish could be here, but aren't because of the economic situation. The state is causing so much of the problems, but the federal government is piling it on. I'm running for federal office, so what can we do? My favorite quote from Jack Kemp, and I think it's at the heart of who we are and relates to our cause here with the Second Amendment, is there's no limit to what free men, free women, and free markets accomplish. We're losing here, and we're losing as a country because we have the highest corporate tax rate, effective, one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. We're taxing jobs out of this state, out of this country. Places that are coming with lower tax rates, more business friendly in the southern part of this country are doing better. Countries that are opening up and having lower tax rates and less regulations are doing better. What can I do to influence New York State? Jack Kemp talked about enterprise zones, places where there would be tax-free areas for business to prosper in inner cities to try to bring them back. I'm talking about empowerment regions now. Senator Paul is campaigning on this in Kentucky as well, saying, look, let's let each state set up empowerment regions where we lower the taxes, where we lessen the regulations, and let businesses come back. I want to take that a step further. The federal government's always coming in and telling us what to do. They're always putting mandates on, saying, you've got to spend money on this, you've got to do this. Let's lift up the entrepreneurial spirit. Let's tell New York State, we want an empowerment region in upstate New York that's been hit so hard for so long, and we want you to match tax and regulatory relief as well. And we can bring the jobs back. Our businesses, our entrepreneurs can bring it back. It's not a new government program. It's just lowering taxes, lowering regulations that are killing jobs. What else do we need to accomplish? Gary alluded to this with the work situation here. We need to get Americans working again. We're at a 62% workforce participation rate. So many Americans have given up looking for work, or they're getting more on government benefits than they think they could get working. If a factory closes down and someone's getting benefits, there should be a strict limit on it, not 99 weeks of unemployment. And we should see them getting back to work. I want to strike welfare from the U.S. Code and turn it into work empowerment. And everyone that's getting government benefits after a short period of time should be doing some type of work to get those benefits. What about health care? We want to repeal Obamacare. It's a disaster. It's driving up health care prices. It's a big government program. People have lost their health care. But what is our plan? And I fault our Republican leaders on all these issues and our national leaders for failing to lead on ideas. I want a dynamic market of choice in healthcare. We should be able to choose. Think about your employer right now. I bet most of us have Plan A or Plan B, or maybe even Plan C. 3 choices. What about car insurance? You could choose from anywhere. $1,200 a year, I get $250,000 in collision coverage for auto insurance. Look at healthcare. My employer puts in $10,000 that I never see in salary. I'm putting in another $7,000 for a family plan. I still have deductibles, and it's just a mess. I leave the hospital after my wife has a baby, $5,000 bill. It's covered by my insurance, but I'm out $17,000. I'm still down $12,000 from that year. We need more choices in health insurance. Foreign affairs. I talked about the power of evil in the world. Our nation is under attack. It was absolutely pathetic after the Paris attacks for France to ask our administration, President Obama, where do we hit? Where are the targets? Why were we not hitting those targets already? Why were we not hitting ISIS headquarters? Why were we not taking it out? The idea I want to inject into the equation is, besides hard military strikes and a heightened military campaign, an embargo. Nothing in, nothing out on ISIS. Why is ISIS selling oil on the black market? Why are they selling looted goods? They're in a desert. There's not that many roads out of the desert. They do go into Syria and there's a port there. But if we had the will, we could strangle the beast. We could let humanitarian supplies in there for the civilians that are being essentially held hostage or being dragged along by ISIS, but strangle their money source. That's part of it that we're missing here. What about security in the border? Why do we only have 21,000 border security agents? Yes, I support building a wall. I think we could do it with electronic surveillance as well, perhaps faster and as effectively. But why don't we have more agents on the border right now? It will take time to build a wall, even if we get it funded from day one with the next president. So get more agents on the border. National security, National Guard. Why can't we secure the border? And besides illegal immigrants, what's coming through that border? Drugs and heroin. And every day we look at the papers, there's people dying in this community because of heroin. We need to secure the border from drugs, but we need to hit the drugs at the source, like we did in Colombia. You don't hear about cocaine that much anymore, do you? In deaths? We went to Colombia and we said to the government in Colombia, we want you to take out the bad guys. We want you to take out the drugs. We'll give you the equipment to do it. We invested a lot of money into Plan Colombia and we smashed cocaine production coming in from Colombia to the United States. You don't hear about Colombia or cocaine as much. The government of Mexico has been given similar equipment, helicopters, other military devices to destroy the drugs, the poppy seeds that heroin comes from. They've not gotten the job done. We need to make our relations with Mexico conditional on them helping to secure the border, not pushing people across here illegally, and destroying heroin that's destroying our communities here. Gary has mentioned just the monstrosity of the federal government, a $19 trillion national debt. I want to talk about some solutions for this. You've mentioned the 12 spending bills. Why not break it up even further? Because the situation Gary's talking about, that Tom Breed complained about and others, oh, we have to pass this because of the military. One, do your job and have it in the 12 bills, but I think it could be even more than that. We have subcommittees, smaller bills. Why does it all come down to this? And that's why it becomes a monstrosity like this. I want to take a page from President Reagan's playbook. President Reagan had something called a Grace Commission. He brought business leaders in. It wasn't funded by the government. They funded it themselves. They went in, they scoured for waste. They found that 1/3 of spending was wasteful and inefficient. It could be cut, and Americans could still get their benefits, veterans, seniors, and Social Security. 1/3 was wasteful and inefficient. And we let it get away from us, the Grace Commission. What would a Grace Commission 2.0 look like? Every member of Congress, if we're a member of Congress, I want to go to each one of you. Where should we cut? Where should we cut? Where should we cut? Bring business leaders in and cut this down. Everyone has to come up with ways to cut. Because as a family, if you're spending too much money, what are you doing? Gary alluded to this. You know, hey, if I'm not doing my job, I'm going to lose my job. If I'm spending too much money, I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose my car. Let's make them accountable. Let's have every member of Congress have to dig in to this monstrosity here. One issue that's not being talked about a lot is the Federal Reserve. The Fed is out of control as well. It's become the fourth branch of government. They caused the recession by keeping interest rates so low for so long. They bailed out the big banks, and now they've engaged in something called quantitative easing, which you're talking about the debts here. They're buying billions of dollars of treasury bonds. No one almost knows about it. And they're trying to control and micromanage the economy, and it's just a mess right now with the Fed. So those are some of the issues I want to lead on in the Congress. And as I said before, I love teaching. I love raising my family. I love doing my economic policy work for the Kemp Foundation. I don't see Congress as the end-all be-all. The sun is going to come up no matter who becomes president. I do think it's a critical election. We need the right people in. We need to get rid of Schumer. We need fresh faces in. But I'm not going to Congress to look for a title. I think a lot of people who are running for office think, oh, I want this title. I want to be mayor. I want to be a state senator. I feel so proud of my title. And I thought about something the other day at the Ted Cruz rally. We had people waiting in line. I know some of you were there. And I remember I had a friend who was one of the first in line. I said, were you in the first row? He said, no, I was in the third row. Everyone else waited in line for hours, and all the politicians came and sat in the front. Wait a second, aren't they serving us here? You know, it's not the title, it's not who they are here. The person who waited in line first should have been in first in that place here. And if the politicians waited in line too, they should have gotten tickets, just like everyone else. I'm not looking for a title for this, but I want to go to Washington to try to change America. I'd be honored to have your support in the June 28th primary. And if I'm successful, I'll be the first one in the Binghamton area in almost 50 years to make it to the Congress, which we need the best representative for the whole region, which goes from here all the way up to Oswego County. But I do think it'd be special to have someone representing this community, and I'll do my absolute best for the whole district, my conscience, the Constitution, and the people of our district. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I've probably spoken too long. As a teacher, I'm programmed to go 43 minutes, and that's how long our classes are, but I think I'll lose all your votes, 43 minutes. Michael.
Mr. Phillips, I have a question for you. I've heard you speak several times, and I just wanted to go over, in reference to both your prior run and the short time that you were a legislator.
Yes.
And looking over your records, looking at your website and all the material and speeches you've made so far.
Yes.
You've never mentioned why you haven't spoken about the Second Amendment or appeared at other Second Amendment organizations like this one. Can you explain that, please?
I've gone where I've been invited, and I have appeared before Second Amendment organizations. We had quite a district. I'm trying to think because it was 6 years ago when I ran, but I've been to Second Amendment events. There was a Friends of NRA event that some of you may have been at, and I've been there many times. It's held at the Shriners Lodge in West Endicott. I've been there. I've been at other events. We've had events for sportsmen. I had an event at Cortez's that we invited sportsmen to just to talk about Second Amendment, and that's just here in the Binghamton area. In the Hudson Valley, I can't even think about the number of rod and gun clubs I visited and Second Amendment events I went to, so I certainly did a lot in my previous run. This race has been pretty quick. I've only been in a race a couple months here, so we're trying to do as much as we can, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I may have misstated. I want to clarify. I wasn't talking about in 2010.
Okay.
I'm talking about the events that you've been in since 2010. Over the last 6 years, there is no record, either on your website, in any of your speeches, during the time you were a legislator, or at any time since December 22nd when you started running, that you have been, as far as I can find, at any Second Amendment event, or speaking on the Second Amendment, the New York SAFE Act, the executive orders of President Obama. Well, that's what I'm speaking
I speak on the Constitution every day to my students, and I teach at the high school level. I'm on a leave of absence from my job now. I teach at the community college. I'm there 2 nights a week at the community college. I'm doing my independent contract work for the Kemp Foundation as well. So like a lot of families, I'm working harder than ever and seem like I'm making less. It's because of the government and the issues I talked about with the Federal Reserve. So look, my priority, certainly as well as my family, I got 3 boys. So I get the things I can. I don't turn down donations since my last run for Congress.
I'm not sure about this, but
Go ahead.
maybe it'll help here a little bit.
Go ahead.
You were a county legislator.
Correct.
We passed a resolution against the SAFE Act. Were you a legislator at that time? And if so, did you vote for that resolution?
I was not a legislator at that time, but had I been, I would have voted against the SAFE Act, absolutely. And I know there was...
And that was about the time you were there, though.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't sure if you were there.
I missed that. There was talk about a follow-up resolution that was going to strike literature about the SAFE Act or requirements that the Sheriff's Department had to put out. I would have supported that. It was something dealing with the sheriff and SAFE Act material that they wouldn't be forced to push that. I was going to support that, but I never did vote on it. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know if elected and you go down to Washington and you see anything at all that's counter to the Constitution, will you stand up and say no, N-O?
Absolutely.
Against it?
The oath is to the Constitution.
Would you pledge that to us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I've staked my career on as a history teacher and a government teacher, teaching the Constitution to young
As
people.
we all know, talk is cheap.
Right.
Actions speak louder than words. And there's very few good congressmen down there out of 400 of them. Okay?
I agree.
And we need to make serious changes right now. There's no time to waste.
Absolutely.
As you know.
Absolutely. I agree with you on no. We need to say no more. I also think we're failing to lead on ideas, as I mentioned before, on healthcare, on economic growth.
ludicrous bill right there.
Absolutely.
All it would have took was Republican congressman could have stood up and said, no, I won't sign this. This is against the Constitution.
Right.
And you're trying to force it down our throats. They should have stood up and said no, but they did not do that.
Is that bill there illegal, or is that legal? Is that illegal, doing that way?
The Constitution talks about the power of the purse for the Congress, and the president has to approve, can sign or veto what the Congress has sent him. The issues that I would have with business as it's going on, and what gets us in a lot of this trouble is, the traditions of the Senate. We need a filibuster proof here, and anyone can object and block things. So what I'd mention in response to Gary of saying, break this up, not just into the 12 parts that Gary talked about, but break it up into more parts. Parts of that have been tried and blocked by Chuck Schumer and Reid.
Don't each
And
one of
others.
those bills have its period of time that they're supposed to allot for the members to read those before they vote on them?
I believe that's in the statutes there.
It seems to me that they broke that trust.
So another
Just-
thing is,
just like Andrew Cuomo did with the SAFE Act in New York State.
getting back to the Constitution, the government's tried to be all things to all people, and we're doing programs the founding fathers never dreamed of or envisioned. And I know Gary said he's got 100 out in the car. One of my funniest examples, if I could be more humorous for a minute, and it's not humorous because it's taxpayer money, we're stewards of taxpayer money, is they funded money to study the effects of swine odor in Ames, Iowa. So if that smells rotten, it is. But there's so many other things that are rotten in here. There has been reforms in earmarks. I ran against Maurice Hinchy. He was the king of earmarks. He would come in saying, I got money for this, I got money for that. No, you didn't. That was our money. That went to Washington. That went to Albany. It got recycled, and we got less of it back. And we have reformed the rules of earmarks somewhat, but we know we still have you've got pork on here. The porkers were still putting things in. It used to be, hey, you get 15. Your pet projects here, you get to put these in.
There's one thing I know,
So-
we all know how to better spend our money than the government does.
Correct.
Okay, and we gotta stop that. They're
So-
just-
So we have this, and for those who are saying that, we have these government services, this, that, the other. Sanders, my nephews came in from college. Our professors are so excited about Sanders. Look, what they're saying might sound good. Who has to pay for it? Stuff doesn't just grow in thin air. And guess what Ronald Reagan used to say? If you get in bed with the government to get a new government program or benefit, you're going to get more than a good night's sleep. There's going to be other things that come with it, and problems, and I've got a problem with this now and this because the government was promising me this. We did so well for so long because of freedom here, and the government's taking that away right now. Yes, Michael.
If I don't want to take up your meeting, gentlemen, just one other question, if you'll indulge me. Mr. Phillips, we have seen that the petitions have come in, challenges are in, and also the financials for the first quarter. At this time, your financials show that you had a decrease in funding of 80%. The petitions show that you are in danger of being possibly removed based on challenges on petitions. In addition, show that 4 out of 8 counties in the district you had no influence in. Given these challenges, we have to ask, how strongly do you believe your chances are in this race going forward?
So I'd like to just counter both of those assumptions here. First on petitions.
Those are facts, sir.
Yeah. First on petitions, you need 1,250 signatures to run for Congress. We submitted
1,900.
1,900, so it's 50% over the maximum. The general rule of thumb is submit a couple hundred over the maximum. So we did almost 50% over that allowed. So we should be fine on our petitions. What you alluded to with the other counties, I don't think this is very democratic and don't care for it much, but the county Republican clubs say, we endorse candidate A or candidate B. I went around to these 8 counties, door to door to petitioners, up in Pulaski, up into towns 2 hours from here in the freezing snow, to shake people's hand and say, look, I'm here, I'm in Oswego County, I'm in Oneida County, I'm in Herkimer County, I'm asking for your support for Congress. At the conventions, the party leaders said, we're going with one of these candidates from the north, and there was deals, and there's also proxies. So proxies are brought in, and there was controversy down here. I got the endorsement from Broome County, and people were upset. Some committee members who were here were upset about it. So at any rate, that's the process. For committees in the north, some of them I was shut out of, and what the leadership actually says is, let's say we're a committee that will make up the county. Let's say it's Erie County, imagining. And Joe Smith got the endorsement. Okay, all of you folks here have to carry petitions for Joe Smith. You can't carry them for George Phillips or any other candidates, or you're off the committee. Those are the rules up there. So we said, you know, why carry them up there if we can get the signatures we need down here? There's 40,000 registered Republicans in this area. So that's one on the petitions. On the fundraising, there are 3 candidates in the race. There's a candidate from the Syracuse area. He's showing $260,000 cash on hand.
236,000.
Okay, he wrote himself a $100,000 check, is that right?
That was one of the sources, yes.
Okay, so that would be,
He has 191,000 in cash at this time, according to the Federal Elections Commission.
okay, if you take out the 100,000 check he wrote himself, how much did he raise?
191,000.
Okay, but he spent a lot, he spent like $100,000.
He spent over 100,000 as well.
There's Assemblywoman Tenney, who's raised some money, she put some of her own money in as well.
Over $100,000 was raised, separate of the monies that she had put in.
Okay. What I saw from our report, and I may be off cash on hand, was the gentleman from Syracuse had 260. Assemblywoman Tenney and myself had about 130.
You have 126,000. She has 134,000 at this
So,
time. That's
roughly-
an increase for her and a decrease for you.
Right. Roughly about the same cash on hand. So at the end of the day, let's talk about money here for a minute. We're happy that we have over $100,000 to get our message out. But at the end of the day, how important is money in this? It's important, sure helps get its message out, but what did money do for Jeb Bush? Not so much. What's it doing for Hillary Clinton? She was whooped up here by an opponent. I know he's getting some money too. Donald Trump is winning without money. And I know he's getting a lot of free media. So is money important for a campaign? Sure. But you know, you have to make priorities. Would have we gotten more petition signatures if we thought it was necessary? Sure. But we did what we thought was necessary. We're raising the money we think is necessary to get our message out. And unlike the other 2 opponents, I haven't been able to self-fund. If you take away what Ms. Tenney put in herself and what the other opponent put in himself, our fundraising is actually quite good in terms of what we've actually raised ourselves. So we can debate that, but this is, you know, ultimately, I don't want to speak for anyone in this audience, but I don't know if you care about these inside topics on petitions or money. I mean, whose names are on the ballot? What's their platform? I'm leading on ideas. I want to change the country here. And we're going to get our message out. Yes?
Where would you stand on, like, the, say, or hold on, say, an assault weapons ban, such as Clinton passes 94?
So first of all, you all know this here. I'm telling you what you know, but the term assault weapons is something put in by liberal government types trying to take away our rights to bear arms. Now, to have an automatic weapon, you have to go through all sorts of special permits. Semi-automatic, which they're deeming assault weapons, are weapons, and I'm telling everyone what they know here, is just how many times you pull the trigger. So right now, pulling the trigger once, that's deemed an assault weapon, and you know, as horrific as some of these shootings have been, we know with guns that didn't look as difficult, like, oh wow, look at this weapon, looks like a machine gun. The killers could have used other guns that were even more potent, that didn't quote unquote look as bad. So let's not get into saying, oh, this gun is out, that gun is in. All these things are taking away rights from law-abiding citizens. And you know, if you look at the effect on this here, what if someone likes shooting at the range here? There's many things besides just security, right? People are enjoying activities. Shooting is a big leisurely activity. Sure, it's not just hunting a deer. Okay, I'm not going to hunt a deer with a semi-automatic weapon, of course, but or perhaps, but you know, point being, I oppose the quote-unquote assault weapons ban. Yes.
I'd like to bring a point forward that I made to the NRA president as well. You gotta stop using the word weapon, first of all, because it scares the public.
Good point.
And anything can be an assault weapon if it's been used in an assault. After the assault, it is an assault weapon. A baseball bat, a broken beer bottle,
Good point.
a car.
Yeah.
Before the assault takes place, it is not an assault anything.
Right.
Okay? And the black rifles that you're talking about, as far as I'm concerned, are freedom rifles. They assure our freedom and defend our country and our families. And every time one of those liberal SOBs brings up that dirty word called assault weapon, you yourself need to stand there and say, wait a second. That's a freedom rifle that assures freedom for the United States of America. You need to bring that point forward every time you talk about it. Please do. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a New York State pistol license?
I do not.
Do you have a hunting license?
No,
Do you shoot trap?
no,
Ski?
no,
Sporting clays?
I don't.
Target rifle?
No.
Do you bring your boys shooting?
There are 3 and 4 and 9, but not yet.
And the fact is, those AR-style rifles are fantastic self-defense rifles, they're fantastic hunting rifles, they're fantastic long-range target rifles, they're fantastic tactical competition rifles. It is one of the simplest semi-automatic firearm designs there is, 4 moving parts.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. Thank you. Yes.
Would you go on record as being willing to roll back some of these, you support Second Amendment, you say,
Yes.
of rolling back some of these and introducing legislation to roll back some of these, like gun control acts like of 68 and of 30s and of
Sure.
80s? I mean,
Yeah.
because that's where it comes down to. Congress shall enact no
Right.
laws, they have.
Absolutely. And so I'd be for rolling ones back, but then looking for new ones. I know a lot of this is going to be on the state level, but I mentioned concealed carry. I was with someone the other day, and they said, "Look, here's my pistol permit for New York State." It was so hard to get, and I had to go through all these checks and this, that. And he was complaining, and he said, "Here's my one for the 37 other states." I got it in Pennsylvania, and it was good for 37 states. So I know a lot of these battles are on the state level, but we need a strong voice on the federal level as
There's
well.
3 gun control acts that are onerous too and establish the whole, system that's,
Some of the precedent that they roll up.
I
For
mean,
sure.
If they're not rolled back by Congress, we have no place to stand
So
eventually.
a lot of things aren't going well with government. I do think supporters of the Second Amendment have raised their voice, and in recent years, we've done a decent job of keeping the bridge from breaking on the national level. In New York State, we were just overwhelmed, obviously.
Well, the other one, would you support national concealed carry reciprocity?
For states,
On-
sure,
On a federal level.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? I think I maybe made up to my 43 minutes, so I better get out of here before you go too long. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to our nation. We'd be honored to have your support on June 28th.
Thank you.